The phone conversation between fantasy veterans Bob Harris and Matt Waldman is a quick and dirty rundown of players, units, or teams from Sunday's games. Feel it or fuck it is our instant verdict on the fantasy value of a player or situation, not the ability, effort, or character of the player. This is just how two old-timers in this industry talk when they got a lot to cover in a little time.
Good morning, Matt Waldman. Remember when I said it was Lucky Week 13?
Yeah.
I would like to perhaps reconsider the lucky portion of that comment from last week.
Yeah, that could be very well the case, though at the same time, those who still have Josh Jacobs, they were pretty lucky considering that he didn't practice all week. Do you think he can continue to play through this injury and still put up the numbers he's putting up?
I think so far the evidence suggests yes, right? I mean, we have 2 games with that injury in pretty bad shape, but one of them 300 yards of offense. Yesterday ran for 140 some yards. So yes, I think he can. He seems to be nursing it, which is odd because I've had calf injuries before and they hurt for a long time, and they tend to be pretty limiting factors. But clearly, this is not like a serious issue. But I mean, it could easily become a serious issue. You look at the schedule though for the Raiders going forward. Got what do we got next? Rams, New England, Pittsburgh. I mean, I think he can keep rolling if he can stay in the locked and upright position pretty nicely.
Well, I mean, considering that his calves look like table legs, I think that I know that you'd like to say that it might not matter, but we know it does. I mean, this is kind of on that level of like a Sterling Sharp way back in the day with the toe injury where he didn't practice all week, but he continued to perform at a high level. I'm going to keep rolling with it until he can't. I mean, that's basically all you can really say. But I think he can if he's – and I would have to think that it probably will slowly get better as long as, again, there isn't some sort of relapse or some aggravation of it during a game that just takes him out for good. It's either going to be he's going to play all year or there's going to be one game that he's done for the year. So –
wait a minute. This just in. There's a photo on my watch. It's of Brock Purdy. Let's go ahead. Brock Purdy as a quarterback 2 the rest of the season.
I'm gonna say I'm feeling it, and I'm probably biased a little bit.
You are.
I'm a little biased a little bit,
but you're not wrong.
But I do think that he is a quarterback too. What we saw is that he's very good with schemed plays. So 49ers with everything that stays on structure, he's going to be just fine. Quick thinker, someone who's reasonably accurate. He can play under pressure. He's good in the pocket. Where things get a little iffy with him is where you just don't know what you're going to get from play to play is when he has to extend a play. Because he's the type that will try to throw across his body. He's got a little bit of that Kirk Cousins in him, early career Kirk Cousins, where Kirk Cousins, he's like that little kid at the pancake house who thinks he can order like the big boy stuff and eat everything, and he like takes 2 bites and now he's full and now he wants to play with his crayons again. Well, Brock Purdy kind of has his eyes are too big for his stomach, or he writes checks that his body can't cash as a thrower. But if he can improve the zip on some of his throws down the line, he might be a good journeyman starter down the line. And this is going to be his first opportunity or taste to show what he could grow into. And I think quarterback 2 with all those weapons is more than fine.
Right. He's got like the 128 color box of Crayolas there to work with, right? In terms of the offensive coaching he'll get, the supporting cast around him. Like, I don't want to get over enthusiastic, but if you're in a super flex or 2 quarterback league, hell, there's one where I was almost playing Kyle Allen before I made a trade yesterday morning. So I'd be considering it. Also, Baker Mayfield's on the loose. He was just released by the Panthers. We'll see if he makes it all the way down. What are the Niners on the waiver wire? They're like 24th?
Yeah, he's not a high priority for them.
Right,
but I understand the idea that you want to pick maybe a guy who's had starts at quarterback position, but it's still going to take some time to get up to speed. And the simplified offenses that he played in, especially like the offenses at Texas A&M and Oklahoma State, it's not going to be the same as what he's doing at
Best of luck to Baker Mayfield to fuck his fantasy fortunes.
Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly how I put it. How about Christian Kirk? Is he a wide receiver 1 next year after what he's done this year? Are you counting?
He's a wide receiver 1 right now. Are we going to be able to talk ourselves into the notion that he's that's really what he is? like I think sharp players will sit there and take a few minutes and say, "Wow, look, Trevor Lawrence, still progressing as a quarterback, a little bit up and down still, maybe more up to come. Solid coaching staff, good offensive scheme. He's going to be in the conversation for sure. I would hope he would fall to quarterback 2 prices because I'm a cheapskate. But my guess is people will be feeling this.
I'm feeling it in the same way that we probably should have felt that way about the sun god Amon-Ra St. Brown,
right?
Because he really is a slightly more dynamic version of Amon-Ra St. Brown. And when you look at Calvin Ridley, that's the whole thing people say is, well, Calvin Ridley's coming back. Calvin Ridley will coming back. That's true. Calvin Ridley will be coming back and making boom-bust plays as a guy who will make some big plays in the passing game deep and maybe occasionally after the catch, and then drop quite a few passes too. And that's not something that Christian Kirk does very often, which is drop the ball. So I think Christian Kirk is going to be that wide receiver one who's a little bit more the security blanket, whereas Ridley's more the flash and dash kind of guy. So DeAndre's
DJ Chark / Josh Reynolds to Amon-Ra St. Brown, you're saying?
Yes, but
better.
Upgraded. Yes,
but better.
Yeah, even though the Jaguars weren't better this weekend against the Lions, that's for sure.
They're heading in a direction, right? I mean, they're not going to get there. Rome's not built in a day. I've been told multiple times over the course of the last few weeks.
Growth isn't linear, something like that. Yeah. DeAndre Swift. I love how you did the poetic and I did the analytic. Isn't that kind of funny how that happened? All right, I'm Adam Harstead, something like that. DeAndre Swift, is he starting this year? Like a starting RB this year? Like, are you looking at him and saying, okay, I can put him back in my lineup, it's safe?
I mean, my invested draft capital wants me to be that guy, but I don't know if I'm feeling it yet. One game does not turn somebody into a trustworthy component for, especially this time of year when you're heading into your playoffs. You don't want to take chances. I did take chances with Swift this past week. I just, the hunch that he was due, right? I mean, he's due. But I mean, I think I might have been playing that hunch for the previous 3 weeks as well, and I can only now say that I did because it happened.
Why does it have more merit with someone with a gray beard going, I've got a hunch, I think he's due? As opposed to I heard some young, fresh-faced kids saying that, I go, what the hell do you know?
I don't think it does. I think everyone's hunches are valuable. You should be everyone should be out there playing their hunches and not my hunches or Matt Waldman's hunches. Hunches are great when you're playing your hunches. But I mean, you could kind of, feel like maybe that the Lions need to do something. So, I mean, I don't know. Jamal Williams is not going away. So I don't want to get carried away with this, but I think if you have that flex spot and you've been holding on to DeAndre Swift, this game gives you a little more hope that maybe you can extract some of that value or claw some of it back that you've obviously lost, because we're not getting what we paid for him.
Yeah, I think it's a perfectly reasonable gamble as a flex. As a starter right now, I mean, I understand that maybe something along the lines, I think Dwayne mentioned that he had like 49 or 50% of his touches came in the first quarter and in the first half, and that's fine. They were ahead big in the first half, by the end of the first half too, and Justin Jackson also dropped the ball that didn't probably earn him a lot of love from the staff because it was an easy drop. But at the same time, Swift looks good enough that he can handle managing ways to deal around contact to that harnessed shoulder in space. And then when I watched him run a play, towards the edge and have to cut it back inside, he basically turned his back onto an oncoming linebacker, saying, "Please don't. I'm not going to drop my pads into you because it's going to hurt." And I think that he won't be ready to be that every down guy. And even when he is, he makes decisions like that anyhow that make me go, "Dude, you're not Barry Sanders. You can't spin in these types of situations." But doesn't matter when the points come, and I think the points will be coming enough to be a flex player. Now, Pat Freirmuth, he's been coming on lately, even with Kenny Pickett and his 120-yard games. So is Pat Freirmuth a top 5 tight end next year? Is he someone that you're going to hear people hyping this guy up? So I'm just curious. Do you think he can pay that bill?
I'm kind of I mean, he's right on the cusp of that. I'm not like I don't want to overstate the case, but he's a very talented player. I remember reading earlier this season a piece, Dan Graziano talking to ESPN, talking to GMs around the league, and they kind of tagged him as the next Travis Kelce kind of player. I'm not going to go that far, but at a position where we're grasping at straws a little bit. Once you get past the top two guys, I think he probably will be a top 5 play, even if I don't draft him like that.
Yeah, Pat Freirmuth would need a skateboard with a little mini lawnmower engine for him to actually like come close to having any burst that's remotely like Travis Kelce. But he's a fantastic player, and that whole idea of Travis Kelce is a little far fetched to me. But Heath Miller plus.
Sure.
In terms of the good Heath Miller seasons, if we remember way back when, he can be a red zone stalwart. So I think it's possible. I'm a cheapskate. I think we're all cheapskates in fantasy. So we're looking at, can we get him at the bottom half of the top 10 and hope that he turns into a top 5 guy?
Right.
And I think that's the realistic assumption of where he's going to wind up. Najee Harris, though, can he be a top 10 running back next year?
To paraphrase Mike Tomlin, that story is yet to be written, and he will write it over the course of the rest of this season, right? I mean, if he can remain on and I should feel it or fuck it, but I'm kind of saying I'm waiting and seeing on this because he's got to define himself. I think if he has a finish over the rest of the season, what we've seen the last couple weeks, I think we'll all forget and forgive the early portion of this season and draft him based on an anticipated volume. But he's never going to be a super high end guy. It just doesn't look like it to me not playing in this offense.
Bob Harris, I don't give a flip about anything about any narrative or script or what he has to write this year because, unless he's supposed to bite his finger and write it in blood, he doesn't have a pencil or a pen or any writing implement that works. So Mike Tomlin ain't going to say my offensive line sucks. So, Najee Harris isn't really going to do much for me. But that's the case. If they do well in the offseason with getting an offensive line, I'm writing it in pen that he's a top 5 back next year.
Sure, and offensive line turnarounds can happen fast. Say the Kansas City Chiefs, the Chargers, and like almost fast. Say the Bengals. Like at least it can happen, over the course of a season with a lot of work in the offseason. So yeah, there you have it.
I'm feeling it with the offensive line. But yeah, I guess that's the official thing. James Cook, is he a running back 1 moving forward in the 12-team league?
Nah, fuck that. No, he's not. He's. I mean, I don't even know if he's his team's running back 1 at this point after a single game with 1 more carry and 4 more targets. I mean, I'm not there yet. Look, I think here's the thing about the Buffalo Bills. I mean, any piece of that you could start because it's the Buffalo Bills offense. There's only 2 pieces you really want to start, though, and that's Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs. The rest of them you're taking your chances on. I have this on good authority. His name is Gabe Davis. A very good player who will either single-digit you or get you 4 touchdowns. There's no in between.
Yeah, he's an adventure every time the ball is arriving with the trajectory towards him. But James Cook, listen, I'm with you. I like him more as he's a wonderful flex play. Like, to me, I would put him even with DeAndre Swift on that level, maybe slightly above in terms of where he's trending, but it's a slow trend. And so you might end up benefiting from a guy who is playing like a running back 1 when you put him in that spot, but leaning on him as a running back 1, the only way you're doing that is if you're stacked at every other position, and that's basically the only choice you have because that's the guy you drafted early on and invested in him, and somehow the rest of your team has worked out. And that does happen with a lot of teams is they go heavy in all these other positions, and all they needed was to reasonably hit on one back, and reasonably hit is get RB2 quality play out of them. And if you do that in a flex heavy league where you're stacked everywhere else, you'll be fine. Deshaun Watson, is he a top 15 quarterback the rest of this season?
Maybe. So look, I'm not feeling it, but here's the thing, and we had a call on the radio, kind of take us to task because we were advising, basically like if you got Watson, you probably don't want to push him in your lineups this week. Let's wait and see. Let's see what he is. It's a great matchup, sure, but and if your options are guys that have maybe emerged like Justin Fields or Tua Tagovailoa who are playing high-end football, and why take a chance? Why not wait and see? And turns out maybe it was a good idea to wait and see because rust is a real thing. And so, I mean, last time we saw him playing on a consistent basis, he was very good. I don't know if he's going to get there or not, right? But I mean, if you've invested in him, you invested in basically nothing, right? Or double-digit picks or some kind of waiver wire pickup during the season. You should probably just wait and see if he gets a little better, and maybe he will, maybe he won't. Where I sit right now is fuck it. No, I don't really think that you're going to get the return on that investment. I'm just hoping he can continue to float the boats of guys like Amari Cooper.
Yeah, I get that, and I think that's probably the safest play. But I'd say that if you're looking at guys like Brock Purdy,
Sure,
or a QB2 as your option, I would probably roll with Watson because from what I saw,
you said top 15, not bottom 15.
That's true. That's true. That's true. There you go. But but yeah, I did like what I saw from him enough to feel like there were some low throws. Some of that was just rushing his process and getting acclimated to the speed of the game. Most of what I saw as being a problem was either I didn't account for a dropping for a safety who was going to peel off a play and he threw a red zone interception. And the other were mostly low throws that came from rushing your process because, again, your mind was playing faster, like a rookie's mind swimming. But the difference is that when you're a rookie and that's happening, it might take several games for you to get better. When you're a veteran and you're getting reacclimated again, I don't think it takes as long. So I actually think he'll have some top 15 games. If you get I'll put it to you this way. I'm not banking on him being that way. Fuck that. But I'm feeling the idea that if you have an injured quarterback situation in the playoffs, go get him. Yeah.
Right. I think that's perfectly reasonable, right? I mean, if you have a guy that's playing consistently and getting you where you're going, keep playing that guy.
Yeah. Mike White, though, Jets are wearing T-shirts of him before that Minnesota game. Now, he had 397 yards. He also, had 2 interceptions in that game? Is he top 15 quarterback the rest of the season?
I feel like he's, I'm going to recycle a joke from the radio, the Pete Davidson of quarterbacks. He's really hot for a week or two and then kind of falls off the radar after that and people blow him off. So we'll see if the Jets, I don't know. I don't think I'm going to play him as a top 15 option. I'm going to play him where I need to play him. And fuck him otherwise, because I feel like he's going to come back to earth and, turn into the guy. I mean, we've seen this movie before, right, Matt? I mean, he kind of saw this last year as well. So I don't know. I'm not sold. It's a better team, though, around him, and he has better pieces. So there's some hope. But he's right on that. He's right on that cusp of guys I like. I'd want to keep on my roster. I'd probably keep him. But I'm not trying to force him into the lineup.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I would say that really what this comes down to is for the production of other players on that offense, I'm feeling Mike White. For the production of other players on that offense, I'm feeling Joe Flacco. Fuck Zach Wilson. That's basically where we're at. Zonovan White. Is he a rest of the season running back too? Is Bam going to get to Bam?
Probably yes. I mean, just look at – I'll feel that, right? Just, based on what we've seen the last 2 weeks, the evidence is there. The I want to say 55% snap share in this game. Ty Johnson's going to be there. I mean, he's going to, have a receiving role, and he's not horrible, and he knows the offense, and the coaching staff knows him. But Knight seems like a guy. And by the way, on James Robinson, there's draft compensation involved here. If he runs for 250 yards as a Jet, he does 75 and whatever he got yesterday. To get to 250, they owe a 5th instead of a 6th-round draft pick. I don't know that that's the determining factor here.
The story's not over with James Robinson, as they say. That's because there's something behind the scenes in the story.
No, but I mean, and I'm not saying that's the determining factor, but like if you have other guys who are like doing pretty good, then maybe it is part of the story.
Yeah, and I think there's a layer to that certainly makes sense, especially if a guy's not completely healthy, and we consider that there is somebody that we weren't going to talk about, but Cam Akers. I don't think the story is completely over with him. I'm kind of feeling the idea that we've all just written off Cam Akers and to say that we all wrote off Donta Foreman, in the past after his injury, and maybe it just takes a little bit more time. And I think that might be the same case with a guy like Robinson, but Knight, I'm feeling the rest of the season as a running back too, low-end running back too, because I still haven't seen anything special out of him, but the offensive line plays well. He catches the ball well. He's obviously earned their confidence, and he was, listen, he's a guy I touted as late round as a guy that this is the exact thing that you could be getting from him late in the year if it came to it. So, it's not a Cinderella story unless you win a championship with your running back too, and you needed that running back too.
Yeah, I'm not sure he's a league winner.
No, he's not a league winner. He's a helper. We'll put it that way. So going from one hamburger helper to another, we've got Isaiah Hodgins. Is he a flex for the rest of the season?
Oh, fuck that. I mean, if we're going to talk Giants, let's talk about the next Travis Kelce, Daniel Bellinger. Come on, man.
I'm kind of feeling it, but then again, yeah. I mean, like, I'll put it this way: he's good in the red zone. He's good at routes where you can have him work inside out. So on that level, it's not the flex I would choose. He's kind of more like that Deshaun Watson flex. So yeah, fuck it. It's kind of more of a once a week.
Clearly, the Giants coaching staff likes him, and and why wouldn't they? They don't have a lot of options, but this is something I talked about with even Saquon Barkley, who's far outperformed expectations. But a lot of our thoughts about drafting him or the draft capital was the offense was going to be a lot better with Brian Daboll. It's better with Brian Daboll. A lot better is coming, but it's not there yet.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So is Robert Woods going to rebound in 2023?
No, fuck that. He's in the wrong place. And also, if you're not going to step up when your team needs you the most, and maybe there's more to the circumstances, but it just I think maybe the ship has sailed for him. He had a prime opportunity yesterday when Treylon Burks went out early and didn't really step up, did he? I mean, he had caught one of 5 targets. Come on, man.
I'm sad to say that I'm with you to say fuck it, and I think one of the big reasons that tells you that is that he restructured his contract this week, which that probably tells me that they came to him and said, listen, man, we're about to say fuck it on your deal and just let you go and go with the younger guys unless you take a pay cut, which means they don't expect him to be anything but a mid-range contributor at best in their offense, which means fuck it for fantasy appeal at all. But your man, Chig Okonkwko, rest of the season, are you starting to feel it now, Bob? Not in the, he's in that bottom half of the top 10, tight ends. I'm trying to do my Bloom impression with that you do well occasionally too, where it's like, I'm on the bottom half. Well, it's in the bottom half of these guys, and you just don't really know what you're going to get with them. But you might as well take a chance with someone because he's got some big playability. Am I saying that right, or are you telling me I should fuck off on that?
You should fuck off on that. No, don't ever ask me about it. So I would like to see a more consistent workload. It's like 20% target share in 3 of the last 6. I would like to see 6 of the last 6. Right? But if he starts getting that level of workload, I think he would be someone we would discuss. It's just too hit or miss for me right now. And I would say the same of Austin Hooper. I think either of them, if either of them had a consistent workload at some point, we would like them, especially this year with the pool so shallow. But nah, not there yet. He's a great player though, and I'll be looking for him next year.
Come on, you're supposed to be the source of optimism for this because I'm saying fuck it too. But
I am the source of optimism. That was optimistic.
That was optimism. Optimism for a Monday is a low scale, my man. It is a low scale. But no, I agree with you completely. I think it makes sense that he's a hit or miss player, but the talent is there. And next year, different story possibly for sure. But I think there's going to be some hits. I think what you need to do is find, I'll say this, matchup play. Look at teams that give up to tight ends and look at the athletic profile of those tight ends. If you've got guys who stretch the seam and run well after the catch, who are getting a lot of points against those defenses, Chig Okonkwko is that guy that you want to take the chance on. So I'm feeling it if you are that specific, and I like to play those types of matchups, and those are my calculated gambles that I like to do. Did the fantasy industry bury Cam Akers too soon?
No. I don't think they buried Cam Akers so much as, well, 2 things. Cam Akers kind of, and the Rams kind of buried him, whatever that, blurb was in the middle of the season where he didn't want to be there and they didn't want him there and then they couldn't get rid of him, all those things. But no offensive line is what buried him. And smart fantasy managers realize that offensive line play matters. I saw there was something floating around. It was like the 12th combination they played of offensive lines in this game. There's a reason this team has struggled in general. Injuries are a big part of the story. Offensive line is a bigger part of the stories, and injuries are a subplot there as well. Cam Akers, congratulations on your 2 touchdowns, sir. It's not something I could play any week. This is the playoff time, Matt Waldman. You're not taking chances. You're not chasing a 2-touchdown game on a team that doesn't really have much in the way of offense to offer. You want to play the guys that you have confidence in. Cam Akers is an outlier. He's a guy you can plug in if you're in a desperate emergency. Other than that, I think you're taking your chances. And I hope he proves me wrong. I hope he comes on down the stretch and has a great finish to a season, but that's not my expectation in this offense.
I love how you take my questions about the fantasy industry and just tell them to go fuck themselves and I'm glad that you do it too, because honestly, I agree with you completely about the Cam Akers and the idea that, there's dumb fantasy takes and there's smart fantasy takes, and that's just life, and there are a lot of people out there who understand that Cam Akers could become a good opportunity for them down the line. And
this is a problem we have. I mean, we equate the situations into the person.
Yep.
Right. And it's not the person. It's not that somebody is or isn't capable of doing the job given served. Deontay Foreman, the player you mentioned.
Yeah.
The circumstances are right. He can perform quite nicely, right? But he's got to be in the right situation, and there have to be all the pieces in place around him. And Cam Akers, the pieces are not in place around him. And maybe, there's issues with his coaching staff that we are not privy to. I suspect that to be the case.
Well, yeah. I mean, when I'll just look at it this way. Cam Akers is also waiting for a pen. He and Naji Harris are going, I need a pen to take this test. So Jordan Mason, is he a running back 3 for the rest of the season?
Feeling it. So I was kind of taking a wait and see approach, because we heard all the talk last week about Tyrion Davis-Price, and some of it, from John Lynch saying, we will be seeing more of him because it was a roster management issue. He doesn't play special teams, yada, and those are legitimate issues. And so those weren't legitimate issues this week. And where was Tyrion Davis-Price?
I am feeling anytime John Lynch talks about a running back to go in the opposite direction, because clearly he and Kyle Shanahan do not see eye to eye when it comes to who they pick the groceries with. If he says, basically John Lynch would be the guy at the grocery store that would say, look, I got you a bunch of carrots, and Lynch would basically Shanahan would cut off the tops of the carrots and use the green stems as a garnish, and not even use the carrot at all. The dish would probably taste pretty darn good too. So that's just kind of the way it is. Mason is a hard runner. He really impressed me with one particular run this game that showed strong cutback ability, but a way to manipulate the linebacker into his blocks. To me, his pre-draft scouting report was, think Alfred Morris with more explosion and better hands.
Think Jeff Wilson Jr. and Raheem Mostert?
Exactly. There you go. Well, Wilson, yes. But you're right. Overall, if you're not looking at it from a stylistic standpoint, yes. Output, exactly. So, Alec Pierce, I got to ask you again.
Stop it!
Stop
it! Just let it go. It was a great game. Congratulations to him. Congratulations to you. I hope you were playing him. But
I wasn't.
That offense. Fuck that offense. Look, I don't know. I mean, I'm not a Jim Harbaugh fan, but I understand the talk.
Yeah, there you go. Jim Harbaugh? What about
Jim being Harbaugh? The coach of the Indianapolis? It's the team. It's not the player, Matt Waldman. Alec Pierce might be a fine young man, very capable. He's not in a good situation right now in that Colts offense, and the Colts are not in a good situation right now. So fuck all that.
Okay, well, good. Well, that's a good way to start the week, is just to say fuck all of it, and I hope that you have that attitude heading into this week in a good way, if you can. And love you, Bob Harris. Bye.
Love you. Bye.